Honourable Senators, I rise today to speak on Bill C-22, an act to establish the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians and to make consequential amendments to certain acts. This bill may create a committee of parliamentarians to act as oversight for the 17 departments and agencies responsible for intelligence and national security. I would like to first of all thank Prime Minister Trudeau and Minister Goodale for their work on this oversight bill. They have worked hard to start the process of restoring the balance between national security and human rights. I thank them for their vision. I would also like to thank Senator Harder, who has presented a comprehensive presentation of Bill C-22 as the sponsor in the Senate. Before speaking on the substance of this bill, I would like to speak on why Bill C-22 is so important. There is a widespread belief in an imbalance between Canada's efforts to ensure its national security and its efforts to protect the human rights of its citizens. This perception comes from many unanswered questions Canadians have about our intelligence and national security system. Since the Mayor RR incident in 2002, this list has become a long one. Some of these questions include: how are our charter rights protected from bills like C-13 and C-51, which have both given our security agencies like CSIS unprecedented powers? How could the Operational Data Analysis Centre, which collected metadata from Canadians for years without anyone ever knowing, have ever existed? Can we trust our security departments to review our security and intelligence agencies, given that so many human rights violations have already happened? With all these questions, Canadians cannot help but wonder what their government is doing to protect their rights against the intelligence agencies which should be keeping them safe. When our national security system does not protect its citizens' rights, the most vulnerable in our society will be hurt. Often, I hear concerns from Muslim Canadians across the country. They contact me about their fear that their rights will not be respected under our current national security system. They are afraid. They know that when CSIS comes knocking at their door, there is a very real risk that they could lose everything. They are afraid because they have no one who will speak for them. When fear like this exists, our most vulnerable Canadians need oversight to look into these very important questions. Oversight means understanding that we have an obligation to our most vulnerable Canadians. This means respecting their human rights and ensuring that they will not be victimized in the name of national security. On the other hand, it also involves helping our national security and intelligence personnel with important work that they do every day. This means working with them to understand how their work keeps us safe. Most importantly, it involves restoring the balance between national security and human rights. The Committee of Parliamentarians created by Bill C-22 represents an important first attempt to create oversight for our national security and intelligence system. 3 senators and 8 members of Parliament on the committee will be given security clearances and will gain access to classified information. Using this information, they will act as oversight for all 17 departments and agencies responsible for intelligence and national security. This is an important first step for Canada to take. Until now, parliamentarians have experienced difficulties obtaining information relevant to national security and intelligence. Grâce à cette mesure,
Thanks to this measure, Canada will be on the same level as its allies. It has surveillance responsibilities. C-22 will ensure that Parliament will be accountable to Canadians. As parliamentarians, we have the responsibility to protect Canadians and to protect our national intelligence agencies. In our work, it is also important to protect the rights and freedoms of Canadians while ensuring national security. These responsibilities make parliamentarians the ideal choice for representing Canadians when we are seeking answers to important questions about national security and intelligence.
Including senators, will play in the Committee of Parliamentarians. We must ensure that proper balance and composition between the two houses. This is not the case in Bill C-22. Clause C4, subsection 2 states that the Committee of Parliamentarians is to be made of no more than 8 members from the House of Commons and no more than 3 members from the Senate. This goes against the principle that Parliament has always recognized in joint committees. Committees must reflect the proportional relationship between the two houses. Specifically, joint committees must have a balance of 1/3 Senate representation to 2/3 House of Commons representation. This tradition can be found in the Rules of Parliament. House of Commons Common Procedure and Practice states, and I quote, "By practice, the number of members appointed to a special joint committee reflects the relative proportions of the Senate and the House of Commons." The Senate procedure in practice also outlines these rules, stating that joint committees are composed of both senators and members of the House of Commons. Membership typically reflects the relative size of the two houses. As of now, the Committee of Parliamentarians does not reflect this reality. 3 members is far less than 1/3 of the committee's membership. Further, the wording of Section 4.2 deepens my concern about the committee's composition. It states that the Committee of Parliamentarians is to consist of not more than 3 senators. This vague wording concerns me, as not more than means that the committee may not even have 3 senators. There is simply no certainty about the actual number. This could lead to further imbalances on the committee, such as situations where there are 8 members of Parliament and 1 senator on the Committee of Parliamentarians. Ce déséquilibre est inacceptable puisque le comité de...
This inequity is unfair because it would result in unfair representation. The Senate has the mandate under the Constitution to represent the provinces and to act as a chamber of sober second thought. In addition, our participation on parliamentary committees would allow us to acquire a great deal of knowledge and experience that could guide us in our studies.
You all to consider changing the wording of this clause to ensure that there is proper balance between both houses. In particular, I recommend that we adopt this wording. The committee may consist of up to 4, but shall have at least 3 members who are members of the Senate. Using the words shall have at least 3 members ensures that the Senate will not be denied the membership it deserves. Further, stating that if up to 4 senators may be on the committee ensures that our chamber makes up 1/3. Before concluding, I would like to place Bill C-2 in a greater context. This is only the first step towards balancing security and human rights. The system proposed from Bill C-22 is far from perfect. In fact, the bill itself recognizes the fact. Clause C-34 of Bill C-22 states that the committee must have a comprehensive review every 5 years so that it can account for any weaknesses that it may have. I welcome the fact that our government is open to finding ways to improve this system, to improve this bill. To assist this process, I would like to raise some areas for consideration in the future. For example, experts in the security field have been expressing concerns about what they consider the triple lock. Simply put, the Committee of Parliamentarians will be required to go through 3 different locks every time they wish to obtain any kind of information. First, Clause 8b states that the Committee of Parliamentarians cannot review any subjects related to ongoing operations if the appropriate minister deems that review would be injurious to national security. This concerns me, since many of the issues that impact Canadians the most involve in ongoing operations damaging the committee's ability to act as oversight. Second clause 14 states that the Committee of Parliamentarians is not entitled to certain types of information. Some of these areas are reasonable, such as matters related to cabinet confidences or witness protection program. However, clause 14 also forbids access to information concerning an ongoing investigation that may lead to a criminal prosecution. This becomes problematic because of realities in the field where almost all modern security investigations are planned in a way that has them continue indefinitely. Third, clause 16 grants ministers the power to deny any information they deem injurious to national security. This is the broadest of the locks, allowing the minister to have complete discretion over what they have considered injurious to national security. This means that they can refuse to provide any information. This is far from the only area for consideration. Experts in the field have also raised other issues for consideration, like the vague and incredibly broad mandate of the committee, extensive committee control over the committee, extensive executive control over the committee, and inconsistencies with former rulings about parliamentary privilege. Honorable Senators, Bill C-22 is not a perfect bill. As I mentioned, there are several areas for consideration which I urge the government to examine in greater depth in the future. Bill C-22 is a vital first step towards ensuring oversight for our national security and intelligence system. Without Bill C-22, there would be no first towards ensuring that our most vulnerable Canadians are not victimized as we pursue national security. If the committee is allowed to act as an effective oversight, it will expose many of the issues that are present in our national security and intelligence system. It will also allow for us as parliamentarians to work together with experts in the field, stakeholders, academics, and Canadians, and to gain an understanding of the most important issues related to national security and intelligence. As we learn more, we can seek greater change. Rather than presenting a single solution, Bill C-22 represents the beginning of a dialogue. In fact, we have an incredible opportunity to begin this discussion right here in the Senate at the committee stage. It presents a perfect opportunity to examine many issues I just mentioned. With all this said, I urge you to join me in supporting this bill once it's been studied in committee so that we can begin this conversation and work together to achieve a true balance between national security and the rights of the most vulnerable people. Honorable Senators, for me, oversight is a balance between security and the rights and the human rights of people. And I would like to remind you of what Thomas Jefferson said. Any country that sacrifices human rights for security ends up with neither. Thank you very much.